This is a big conversation, but it's one about the ending of a cycle. And as somebody who works so much with cycles all the time, the moon, the sun, the seasons, the ancient festivals, I'm always talking about an appropriate moment when something is to kick it off, to step back from, to reflect upon, to seed a new idea, to move into accelerated energetics, and sometimes to shut something down. I think we entrepreneurs feel that when we've started something and we put our whole heart into it, that it's just got to be. You just got to make that happen. And there's a misconception that one end of that problem is really that the entrepreneur who's often front end, who's at the front of all the work that they do, they are just overwhelmed because they don't have the back end covered. They don't have people who are supporting them in the team, and more likely than not, they need to delegate. That's one of the hardest things for entrepreneurs. When you've built up an idea or a project or a business to a certain level and you've done it your way, you actually don't believe that anybody else can do it as good as you. And so you end up, rather than getting the help that you need earlier on, and actually taking on the other ingredients of the ideas that might tweak it to a better way of being. But entrepreneurs who are just boldly going on their mission can become absolutely overwhelmed at this point, and they think they want to pack in the whole idea, when really it's an issue of delegating. The other energy that can be misconstrued with just something that is a rearrangement of team or something is actually quite a deep aspect, and it's the ending of a cycle. I've had this so many times in my life. Every single project that I start with aplomb, I believe truly that it's going to be the one that I carry through for the whole of my life. And there aren't really many things that I can say that I really do want to carry through the whole of my life. I mean, for instance, one is yoga practice. It's so deep in my cells, in my beingness, and I derive so much pleasure from it, and so much well-being, and so much peace of mind, and so much spiritual connection through it, that I would never be able to end that. There is no cycle of ending with my yoga practice. I chose it as a very young woman, and like I'm in it for life. But when I've created projects and I've gone out into the world to really get them and launch them, I always come in with the intention that this is it. This is going to be my whole thing for the rest of my life. And it's because the excitement and the thrill of something starting that is such a pure energy, and I can put my whole being into, I can't imagine why I would want to end it. Of course, then when you are going about the details and the build cycle and all of that kind of thing, after a few years, if it's really not going the way that you want it, well, there's a natural time that that should end, and you should pull the plug on it. We're in August, and August is post-harvest reflection time in the wheel of the year. This is the time when often when you're on holiday and you have downtime, that you end up looking at something and thinking, do I really want to go back to that thing that I'm doing in September? Do I really want to? Or even if I don't know what the next step is or the next flourishing idea, I want to honor that there is something else. And the best action at that time, if you want to honor something else, is to just honor it without having a clue, an idea of what is coming in. By starting to honor a certain level of the feeling that you get with the energy, and I'm not talking about, oh, it needs some admin, it needs some rejiggling in the back end. I'm talking about there's something that's so calling for an end in your whole being, and you'll feel it, and you don't know what that next piece is. But you can honor it by just starting to shut down the thing that is no longer working for you. And that will be when you feel in your heart there's a heaviness. I was talking to somebody today who was saying that they were considering, they've run a yoga shala for many, many years. And post-COVID, they were considering whether or not they'd shut it down, and now they're doing events and various things. But the regular practice is something that they're not called necessarily to go back to do. It's a lot of work running something like a yoga shala or center. And this person was saying that they don't even know what it is that's coming in, but they feel it in their heart. And in that instance, rather than going back to just opening all the classes up again in September, instead, they're honoring just not doing something like a regular routine. And I think this is quite a profound conversation. You know, we could have many layers of this. But what I can say and speak into this is that there are certain phases that are appropriate to your growth. And right now I'm in the mastery phase. So I can tell that there are certain non-mastery things that are really not a calling for me anymore. It's got to be a big, juicy idea which requires a certain level of genius. It requires my attention. It promises my attention because I'm so into it that I could not find it fascinating. There's something like that happens, and I know that when something like that comes forward, I'm meant to jump on it. So I'm working in mastery with other collaborators, because mastery is where I'm at as part of my cycle, new beginnings. And other cycles are just naturally falling away because it's like, I have mastered that, I've done it. It's like, okay, there was a certain level of completion and it's time to let it go. More on this topic, I'm sure, but it was a reflection that I had today just about the importance of honoring cycles and the importance of not just forcing the hand of chance to make something work because once you thought it was a good idea. Now, time to check back in and go, is it really?